Okay, primates exploring primates. Let's talk about what primates are. We humans are considered primates. That's why this is called primates exploring primates. So it's kind of us exploring ourselves. But there's also two other types of animals that are considered to be primates, and that's apes and monkeys. Apes and monkeys are our closest ancestors. When we're talking about evolution over time, we have all this diversity of life on Earth. And the guys that we're most related to are apes and monkeys. We're actually 99% genetically similar to a chimpanzee, which is just crazy. But that small difference makes us much different than these animals, obviously. But it's just kind of amazing to think of how related we actually are to apes and monkeys. So here is just a graphic kind of showing some primates. You got monkeys and apes and humans. A lot of people ask me the difference between monkeys and apes. Monkeys usually have tails, and then apes are usually larger as well, and they don't have tails. Monkeys were around a lot longer before apes came around on Earth. So these are older species. This guy here was around 60 to 65 million years ago. You start getting some other monkeys. Then you go into the apes, which was started to come around about 20 million years ago, 15 million years ago. The three main apes that you're probably familiar with are orangutans, gorillas, and chimps. And these are the ones that we are mostly related to, especially the chimp. We share, again, I think I already said this, 99% of our DNA with the chimp. That leaves 1% of our DNA that's different from a chimp, and man, that 1% makes us very different. So that's a very important 1%. But it's just very interesting to see how alike that we are with these apes and monkeys. So be familiar with that word primate. Just remember that it's a group of animals that contains human, apes, and monkeys. All right, moving on. So what is it about humans that makes us more advanced than other primates? There's lots of primates. So this shows a little bit bigger picture of the different primates that are alive today or have been alive in the past. One thing that makes us advanced as a primate species in general is our opposable thumbs. Okay, and this is not specific to humans. You can see that some of these apes and monkeys also have thumbs. So what does opposable mean? Well, if you look at your hand, your thumb goes in a different direction than your fingers, right? Your fingers, if they're pointing up, your thumb kind of goes out to the side. That is opposable. You can think of it like opposite. It's going in an opposite direction. But you can take your thumb, you can cross it all the way across your hand. You can touch every single one of your fingers with your thumb. Because the thumb does that, it gives us a lot of flexibility with what we can do with our hands. All right. So for monkeys and apes, this was a great advantage to them with climbing trees. They were actually able to grasp onto limbs and different things that they need to grasp onto. Okay, so this is kind of how the thumb evolved, because it was an advantage to monkeys and apes to be able to grab onto branches as they were swinging through the trees. It has got a little more, the thumb has gotten more advanced through time. You can see actually that some don't even have the thumbs. So it was an adaptation that kind of started coming around in certain monkeys and apes. The human hand, our thumb actually has more flexibility than other primates. So you can see like some of these apes here, their fingers are much longer than their thumbs, so they don't really have the precision that they do with their hand. Humans, this gives us great precision. And if you think of all the things that we can do with our hands, this has allowed us to build things, to use tools. Think of doctors and what they do with their hands. You can imagine going into brain surgery with a doctor that doesn't have thumbs. I mean, that would just be crazy. So our thumbs really allow us precision. Think of the things that you grab. I mean, pick up something right now and see how much you use your thumb. If you didn't do this in my class, which is something that we do, tape down both of your thumbs, have someone tape down your thumbs, and just try to do some things. It just feels really odd. We don't really think about how much we use our thumbs. In a survival standpoint, it was a huge advantage if you think back to our ancestors. Again, like I said, being able to use tools and different things that we could do with our hands that other animals can't do. All right, even you can watch some videos of some apes and some monkeys, and they've found ways to use kind of tools with their hands. Um, so again, just remember the opposable thumb. It's a huge advantage for us in allowing us to do a lot of things. Okay, so let's talk about another advantage, and that's our brain. If you were in class and got to hear about Mr. Phineas Gage, the guy that had a rod go through his skull, through his brain, and survive. It was just kind of a crazy incident and story, and you should check into it if you haven't heard of it. But this was kind of a big finding back in the day because, especially in the psychology world, because even though it didn't kill him and he lost a lot of his brain, he still survived with the brain that he had left. But one thing that it changed was his personality. It really changed his personality. He used to be this really friendly guy, and then when this happened or after this happened, he just wasn't even the same person. He was mean and he was very irritable and belligerent, and it was an awesome finding in the psychology field to kind of see different regions of the brain and how they can affect not only just our physical structures, but our personalities and our thinking and who we are. That's just an interesting story for you to check out. But let's kind of talk about the difference of our brains with other animals and specifically primates. So this is kind of a new word. I'll just go ahead and let you know what it is. Hominids are types of primates that actually walk on two legs, which we'll talk about in a minute. So a lot of primates walk on all fours, and some primates walk on two legs like us. So if you see the word hominid, it's us and our ancestors that were able to walk on two legs. All right, so the chimpanzee is actually not a hominid. Let me just point that out. This is here just as a reference to compare these other hominids. So this is showing brain size. So if you look at our brain size, so here's a chimp. This is one of our ancestors that are no longer living. The species is no longer around. I think this one is Lucy. If you have heard of Lucy yet, this is Lucy. Homo habilis, Homo erectus, the Neanderthals, these were kind of the cavemen. The Neanderthals look like their brain's actually a little bit bigger than ours, and these were alive maybe 100,000 years ago, so these were early human species. We are considered modern humans. We are obviously very different than Neanderthals. But you can see, the increase in size of our brain. And this makes us more advanced because we have bigger brains. We have more neurons or nerve cells, which are the cells in our brain that actually do all these things. They're what send all the signals and store our memories. And they're all the electrical currents that are going through our brain is through those neurons. So because of our larger brain size, we have more neurons. And it allows us to do all this higher order thinking and this advanced processing that you don't see with like chimps and other types of apes and monkeys. And our ancestors over time, you can see how it gets larger and larger, and how we have become more advanced over time to where we are today. Here's just some other animals to reference. You got a dog and a cat. Here again's a chimp. Here's a human brain, so you can compare our size to the rest of these animals. Obviously, ours is much larger. And really, for our body size, our brain is really big. Because if you compare, this is a giraffe. So if you compare, it's pretty similar, and you can think how much bigger a giraffe is. So one thing that makes us advanced is for our body size, we have a really large brain for our body size, which allows us to just do more stuff with our brain, basically. It's just more advanced. We can process things. We have higher order thinking. We have language and the way we communicate and our conscience and just different things that we can think of. It's just amazing how our brain works compared to these other animals. Again, showing the human brain is complex. We also have all these regions that allow us to do everything. So we have these specialized regions that control different things that we do. So kind of the frontal lobe here, this has got your thinking and planning and problem solving. This is a lot of where your personality is. This is the part that Phineas Gage actually lost when that rod went through his head. And you can see how his personality could have changed by losing this. You got an area here for movement. So moving your arms and your legs and different things. Sensations. Think of our five senses. This can be processed here. Perception, making sense of things. Here's kind of your school stuff, your math, your spelling. Here's vision. We have a really advanced vision as well compared to other animals. So this specialized region of the brain actually functions in processing that. And then here you have your memory and your understanding and your language. So all of these, this whole brain has all these neurons, and these neurons form all these connections when we're learning to do things and when we're thinking or moving or sensations. It's all connections with different nerve cells in our brain. The point here is that I want you to remember about how humans are more advanced is because our brains are larger and they are more complex. We just have more advanced brains. Last thing I want to talk about, so we've talked about opposable thumbs, how that makes us more advanced. Talked about our brains and how that makes us more advanced. The last thing we're going to talk about is how we are bipedal. And basically that means that we walk on two legs. So if you break the word down, bi means two, and pedal, if you think pedal on a bike, you pedal with your feet. Ped actually means feet. So this means 2 feet. So humans walk on 2 feet. If you look at our distant cousins here, the apes and the monkeys, they walk on all 4, okay? They don't walk on 2 feet. It's just not comfortable for them. If you go to the zoo and watch some apes and monkeys, if they're not swinging through the trees, if they're on ground, they're going to be walking on all 4. Can they stand up and walk on 2 feet? Yes, absolutely. You've probably seen them do that as well. Sometimes they'll stand up and kind of take a quick little run, but it won't last for long. They'll go back to all 4s. It's just not comfortable for them. Just like it wouldn't be comfortable for us to walk on all 4s. Our body is made to walk on 2 feet, and that evolved over time. So you have here some apes. This might be one of our early ancestors that's kind of showing the transition between ape and human, as well as this guy. This guy might be like a Neanderthal. And then you got our modern humans that are on 2 feet here. So bipedal, you need to know that word too. It just means walking on 2 feet. Apes are actually quadrupedal, so quad is 4. They walk on 4. Well, why do we do this? Well, if you compare our structures, that's why. You can see we have a different kind of spine. Theirs is curved over. Ours has this kind of S shape that supports us being able to stand up. Our pelvis is different. This is a big thing. Our pelvis is shorter and wider, whereas theirs is more narrow and long. And this supports walking on 2 legs better, okay? For whatever reason, and you don't need to understand why, but it just allows us to walk on 2 legs, whereas this does not. It doesn't support that as much. Our feet are different. If you ever look at the foot of a monkey or an ape, they almost have a thumb on their foot. It looks like they have a thumb. But we don't have that. All of our toes face the same direction. They have one that comes off the side like a thumb on a hand. This allows us to run better. It's just, this is the structure that allows us to run. You can also see we kind of have an arch here, which allows us to walk on 2 feet better and run. They don't really have an arch like that. Theirs is kind of straight. So the different structures here, we have adapted to walk on 2 feet because of the way our structure has changed throughout evolution. So be familiar with that as well. All right, so let's summarize here. The 3 things that make humans more advanced. Well, we have highly functioning opposable thumbs. A lot of primates have opposable thumbs. You can't really, there's not any other animals out there that have thumbs other than us that are opposable at least, except for primates. But humans are a little bit more high functioning than other primates. We're able to do more with our hands in a more precise way than they are. We also have larger and more complex brains, which allows us just more thinking power. And then also we're bipedal. We walk on 2 feet, okay? So know these 3 things. They're very important in what makes humans unique and advanced, okay? If you have any questions, just let me know.